Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, we try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left and rhino right. The liberal elite in the United States, or for that matter, anywhere in the world, has one goal above all others: to upend the freedoms that are enshrined in the United States Constitution. To be successful, they have to employ a multi prong approach: illegal immigration, racism, indoctrination, and media control have been the primary tools used by the liberal elite to this end. Now, we could add anti-Semitism to the arsenal. All of these in concert to overthrow capitalism, usher in government control, and ultimately end the constitutional republic that is the United States. In today's episode of Office of the Patriot, we're going to discuss the reasons for the rise in anti Semitic behavior on college campuses and our government's lax response to acts of violence and civil liberty violations on behalf of either anti Semitic behavior or pro Islamic terrorist activity. So, why are we seeing this huge influx of anti Semitic behavior on many Ivy League and public college campuses throughout the United States? Part of it is the indoctrination process many of these young adults have went through during their time in many public school systems. As most of you know, the public school system has pretty much done away with teaching any reading and writing and history and arithmetic in lieu of woke ideology and victimhood. Essentially, STEM is racist. I mean, if you fall on the floor and you kick your feet and you start screaming, sooner or later you'll get what you want. At least that's what these kids were told. Unfortunately, they were right, at least as it relates to Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois.
Joe and Erica, Northwestern says they reached this agreement with a group of students and faculty who represent the majority of these protesters to keep violence seen elsewhere from seeping into their campus. Though some on campus still dissatisfied, saying it was a small group that agreed to terms that some say doesn't go far enough. Now, this is video of some of these tents coming down at the Evanston campus in just the last few minutes. Here now, details of that deal hammered out, leading to what the school calls a de-escalated path forward.
No other university, to my knowledge at least, has been able to secure wins this great.
Justice is our demand, clap! No peace, no stolen land!
Northwestern saying it has come to terms with protest representatives, agreeing that peaceful demonstrations will continue on Deering Meadow through June the 1st. Only Northwestern students and faculty and staff can participate. One of the key protest points, where the university invests its money. Part of the sweeping agreement calls for the relaunch of a student faculty advisory committee on university investments. One of the key demands from protesters is that the university divest from corporations that profit from Israel's occupation in Palestine. The school agreeing those on campus with questions about specific financial holdings can ask the university about them and expect an answer within 30 days. The university will also agree to pay for 2 visiting at-risk Palestinian faculty members for 2 years each and 5 visiting at-risk Palestinian students for 4 years each, with an expectation that this will continue beyond this year. The university also agreeing to provide immediate temporary space for Middle Eastern, Northern Africa, and Muslim students, and within 2 years provide and renovate a house for those students.
I don't think my heart has ever been fuller. I'm very, very proud of everything we've been able to achieve.
So that is one student's perspective. CBS 2 being told other students in the encampment were blindsided by these agreements late today, calling those who made the decision sellouts. Namely, they say, because it does not include material divestment from Israel and forfeits their right to continue their encampment efforts. Live in the newsroom, Chris Ty, CBS 2 News. Erica.
All right, Chris, thank you.
Northwestern University isn't the only one considering caving into the demands of these indoctrinated kids. The indoctrination process that was formed in the K-12 public schools was honed to a very fine point at these liberal bastions known as public colleges and universities. All that the university faculty taught these entitled and privileged kids was that angst, coupled with anger, is a suitable replacement for effort and excellence. But that worked perfectly for the lemmings that the liberal elite needed. Again, if any of these educated college students had actually bothered to be a legitimate student of history, they would have seen that this playbook has already been used by a number of failed revolutionary leaders. Hitler and Mao come to mind. Anybody with a functioning set of eyes and a few untarnished neurons firing in the mass above the spine can see that this entire series of events is nothing more than a play staged for the benefit of the slack-jaw masses that comprise the Democrat Party. These kids should have been arrested and thrown out of school once they violated the law and or school policy as it relates to student behavior. And this type of behavior is one of the reasons why I believe that we should move back to the requirement that only people that have a vested interest in the United States are able to vote. And, well, what is a vested interest? That would be the ownership of land or a business. What's your take on these kids and the actions or the inactions of the school admin, Mike?
First off, I find it's unbelievable that the adults allow the kids to push them around. I mean, these little asshats need to be slapped and told to shut up. Um, I've got a couple ideas, actually several ideas how to fix it. I think it's very simple. You want to hear it?
I'm all
Here we go.
ears.
Well, here we go. I got a couple here. So firstly, I think this will be pretty tough to get through, but for full citizenship, including voting rights, I think everybody should have to be put through 4 years of military service, or I mean, at like a minimum 6 months of basic training. I mean, that's like the bare minimum. That would be kind of like phys ed on steroids for a lot of these kids that can't handle any sort of physical uh, activity, and it would help get them in shape too. So that's number one. Um, Next, I would probably try to pull all funding from the cities that refuse to, enforce the laws against the people that deface monuments, especially, and basically any structural damage outside of the grounds of the schools. So anything that's owned by the cities, the counties, the state, try to pull the funding for them on that purpose, and that would force those municipalities to kind of do their job and go after enforcing the laws. So that's number two. Number three, anyone that joins a protest for even just 5 minutes, send ICE in. If they're if they're an illegal alien, or if they have a green card, get them out of here. Just deport them immediately. No way to come back from that. They have to just get out of the country immediately. We don't need any more terrorists here. So also put them on the do not fly registry so they can't come back. They'll be barred from reentry to the country legally anyways. And lastly, I would probably go after, I would use the DOJ to go after any organizations that are involved in the funding of these protests, and instruct the FBI to come down like a hammer on them. Just open up both barrels on them. And granted, the FBI has been kind of in the pocket of the swamp rats, if you will. But I think with enough pressure and using the bully pulpit, the president, if they have the will, they can make it happen. They can put enough pressure, and public support would build. Also, it would build against the people in Congress that are not doing their jobs. So the FBI and Congress can get a lot done with the right president in office, and we currently don't have the right president in office. As for the administrations, I think that shit will sort itself out, because I think within a few years, when they struggle to get private funding, that coupled with funding from any governments, hopefully that starts to dry up as well. So I'm pretty optimistic that will sort itself out. So,
Yeah. Damn, I actually thought that I was taking sanctions up to the limit, but I feel your anger, and likely so does the rest of America, which brings me to my next point. Where are these kids getting their money to fund these protests? Some of the signage appears to be professionally made, and you can't tell me or convince me that these city-dwelling, soy chai drinking, pink-haired vegans all have camping equipment like tents. It also appears that they are all eating pretty damn well because their body fat percentage is about half their weight, and they all have that tailed liberal pinched face like they've been wiping their ass with 80 grit sandpaper. But come on, we know that they get their 2-ply puffy charmer from mommy and daddy. So they are likely to go cry back to mommy and daddy. So somebody's got to be providing it. Protesting costs money, and in this next video, we see that it appears that these protesters are funded exceptionally well. So well, in fact, that some of them appear to have made it a career choice. Take a look.
I have to say, these tent cities that they're building across college campuses are crazy, but are really well organized. And you know, I had to look into this to understand who's behind all of this and who's paying all these people. I have to be honest, what I found was not really shocking, but I was surprised by how similar it is to the BLM summer riots of 2020. You see, these encampments are actually really well organized. The students receive the tents from organizers that also supply a bunch of different food like pizzas, rotisserie chicken, coffee. So I looked into who these organizers actually are, and there are 3 prominent groups. Students for Justice in Palestine, there's Within Our Lifetime, and then there's Jewish Voices for Peace. And these groups are actually led and organized by another organization called U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. And just guess how much these fellows are paid. They get $7,800 if they work 8 hours a week on some kind of Palestinian campaign. Makes you rethink what the hell you're doing with your life. And across these campuses, we've seen these fellows speak out at various events. Nita Laffey, Craig Morton, Malik Afina. So where the hell does USCPR even get this money to pay these fellows that much money? And who funds Students for Justice in Palestine and these other organizations? Here's where it really gets interesting. Almost all of their funding comes from rich, elite investors such as George Soros, Howard Horowitz, and members of the Rockefeller family. And isn't that ironic on its own? You see, George Soros' Open Society Foundation, along with Rockefeller's brother fund, gave $700,000 to these organizations. And we know now that the Open Society Foundation isn't run by George Soros anymore. It's actually run by his brother Alex Soros and his partners Huma Abedin, with direct ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. As they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Now, the Open Society Foundation also funneled $20 million into the Tide Foundation. And the Tide Foundation takes this money and disperses it across all of these organizations across the U.S. They funnel money into Westpac, which is an organization that is led by Howard Horowitz. And Westpac is actually the fiscal sponsor for Within Our Lifetime. And guess what? All of these organizations have direct ties to the 2020 Summer Love riots. So the question I have to ask is why? Why now? Why again in the summer before a presidential election?
I'm of 2 sides on the issue regarding liberal elites like the Rockefellers, the Pritzkers, and the Soros family that are the primary source of funds for these protests. One part of me, the part that advocates for freedom, really doesn't have a problem with them funding whatever the hell they want to fund. Hell, it's their money, and as long as the money isn't used for illegal purposes, then hell, it's their right to throw it away if they choose. However, it appears that much of this money is going to NGOs whose primary goal isn't just to fund protest, but to encourage disorder and chaos by the protesters. Then they are breaking the law. And if that's the case, then they should be held to account. Unfortunately, the problem here is that the Biden administration, bumbling Joe, specifically the DOJ and the FBI, have not made it a priority to deal with civil liberty violations against Jewish students and faculty by so-called peaceful protesters. I mean, we're seeing a number of arrests, but there's not much information coming down the pike for convictions and sentencing. At a bare minimum, I think law enforcement organizations who do take action and at least arrest these terrorist sympathizers should out these people for everyone to see by stripping off their masks. I I actually remember seeing an Instagram reel a ways back about a Caucasian female college student who was wearing a mask during one of these crazy protests. And when she was asked about the mask, she replied that the reason she was wearing it was because she didn't want her parents to know that she was involved with pro Hamas agitators. Oh. I mean, one of the first fucking things we teach our kids is that if you have to hide your behavior from your parents, it's probably behavior that you should not be involved in. Oh, shit. I forgot. Many of these kids were never really taught by their parents. Their parents deferred that responsibility to the state by virtue of the public school system or liberal private schools. Mike, so how would you propose to handle this funding chain issue?
Oh man. Okay, first off, kids are dumbasses. Everybody knows this. I was dumb. You were dumb. Your kids were dumb. Your parents were dumb. Everybody's dumb at that age. We were
Agreed.
all fucking stupid at that age, and we were all, engaged in irrational behavior and did some really stupid shit. Does that give them a pass? Fuck no. Hell no, it doesn't give them a pass. I definitely blame their parents. I think, you know, like you said, the parents are deflecting these days. It's like they leave it to this. That's the other thing that pisses both of us. I know it pisses you off too. People leave it up to the state. They just leave it to, oh, the public school system is here to raise my kids. No, they're here to teach them basic crap, but the life lessons come from your parents. That's who shapes your worldview. They don't. I mean, if you leave it up to the state, we've seen what happens there. And I call them face diapers for a reason. I don't refer to them as masks. So these fucking kids wearing the masks, they got they're wearing fucking face diapers. And when I get approached by people in public on a regular basis, I go to the stores. Most of the people don't approach me, but I mean, if somebody's mumbling, I mean, I find it hard to understand people to begin with. I don't have bad hearing. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird accents sometimes. But people are mumbling through the mask. I just walk away. I'm like, I'm not fucking talking to you. You're a fucking jerk off. Get away from me. If you're that if you're that scared of like living, then I don't know. It pisses me off. So and it all started under the pandemic, and it's continuing. And they use it because you know a lot of people use it to break the law these days, which I think something needs to happen because especially here in California, we see it all the time on the news. All of these gangs that are breaking into stores and stealing stuff, people getting beat up on the street and killed and seriously injured, people getting carjacked. They're all wearing masks because they think that they're kind of flying under the radar when they do that. Um, I think artificial intelligence is starting to catch up. The law enforcement is starting to use AI software to really target them. So that's the good news, which is kind of sad actually because that's going against our civil liberties. But that's for another story. Anyway, masks I think need to be outlawed in general. I don't know how that would happen. I think it should be for people that are seriously, immunocompromised, if that makes them feel better, or if they're going into surgeries. Anybody over the age of, say, I don't know, 35 or 40, maybe they get a pass. But young kids, if they're wearing masks, it's like they got low self-esteem, and it's like number one is probably low self-esteem, but they're hiding their behavior, just like you said. It's like they're hiding it from their parents, they're hiding it from society. So if they're not terrified about hiding their faces, they need some serious psychiatric help and probably some drug therapy. That's what I think.
Absolutely. The masking really pisses me off as well. In fact, many people don't know, but there are a number of states that actually have anti-masks ordinances in place. In fact, New York City, New York, has an anti-mask ordinance that was enacted in 1845 and is still on the books today. Officially, the pandemic's over, and the need for endorsement by the federal government for masking has been withdrawn. So depending on the law rather of the state that you're living in, if you're involved in these faux protests and you have a mask on, you could and should be cited for that as well. But like I said, that's why I think the mask should be removed by law enforcement during the arrest process so these idiot kids can be outed. And maybe one or more of their parents will, I don't know, intervene and stuff a size 10 plus up their ass. In an earlier episode, I spoke briefly about giving these kids exactly what they were asking for by stuffing them all into a C-140 and then transporting them out to Gaza and the West Bank. And that way, they can get a firsthand education on what Palestinians and more specifically Hamas thinks about them and their lifestyle choices. However, it appears that Ami Horowitz of PragerU has already acted on my idea. Well, sort of. He did it in a much more civilized way, however. In fact, he put himself at great risk to bring this information. And here's a very small sample video of those interviews.
Do you think most gay people, tend to side more with the Palestinians versus the Israelis in general in the conflict?
I would say yes.
Because of the human rights situation?
100%.
I've done Man the Street videos all across the world on explosive topics. This is the first time I've had a local producer expressly forbid me from doing this segment because he thinks that asking people about homosexuality will absolutely explode into violence. But I did it anyway.
بيناتنا لأنه هذا شيء مرفوض قطعا أخلاقيا
مرض فهمت هم بأي مكان بيكون هم أصلا ضعف.
In the Palestinian territories, there's not much of a debate on gay marriage. Here the discussion is more about the killing and the torturing of members of the LGBT community.
Honestly, I didn't know that was even going on.
They don't value human rights or human life.
What should be done to gay people?
الحكم للي بده يمشي في هاي الطريق ويمشي في هاي الطريق يطبق حكم الإسلام عليه.
I mean, it's horrifying.
I've included the link to the entire video in the description section below, so give it a watch. It is definitely worth your time. Radical Muslims have embedded themselves in virtually every state in our nation, so it should come to no surprise that some of them have infiltrated our college campuses and universities. There's some interesting Islamic dogma that many Americans don't know about as it relates to what Muslims have been claiming Israelis, and more specifically Jews, are doing to Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. You see, Muslims can lie. No, actually, let me retract that and go maybe just a step further. They're obligated to lie to anyone who's not Muslim, otherwise known as an infidel, to the point where they can even swear upon Allah that what they're telling you is the truth, but in fact, it is a lie. This Islamic principle is called Tawriya. So when a radical Muslim is telling an impressionable young college student that they have been massacred and subjugated for centuries under Israeli rule and even swear to it, it's a lie. So the only way I can see to present the truth to these slack-jaw liberal masses in a way that they will know that they are being used would be to round their asses up and send their asses out to Gaza. As I said before, history isn't the best teacher. Experiences. Mike?
Yeah, send them to Gaza. It's pretty clear none of these fucking idiots have ever been punched in the face, let alone heard the word shut the fuck up before. They wouldn't last 5 minutes in that shithole part of the world. Would I love to see it? It would be like, yeah, it'd be like watching Survivor on steroids. That'd be awesome. I'd fucking break out the popcorn. I'd laugh my ass off, as a matter of fact. But at least showing them what, some of these videos I've seen, like I think the end of that video, there's another section where he actually talks to, he shows the responses of the Palestinians to the gay people in San Francisco, and he's basically showing them exactly what they think about them, and they're shocked because basically they're saying, yeah, we think they should all be killed or thrown in jail. They need to be removed from society no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're a good person or not. They're, remove them from society no matter what method is used, killing or throwing them in jail permanently. And they're just like, they're dumbfounded, but at least they wake up. It's like once they see what these Islamic Neanderthals are actually believe in, what they're talking about doing, then they're instantly educated. So that's the good news. But getting that propagated throughout the entire, leftist, we'd have to use the leftist media somehow, get them to, you know, send out that information to kind of deprogram everybody. But anyhow, that's exactly what they need to hear. They need to be deprogrammed and be told exactly what the Palestinians want to do to all of us, especially white people and most especially Jews, who they consider to be the most evil people in the world. That's what they teach their kids. Their entire society is infected with that. But a lot of them, unless you forcibly deprogram them, they're not gonna accept it. You got to do what they did to like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange. You got to put toothpicks in their eyes. You got to strap their forehead back on the chair and just watch. Show them exactly, make them hear and see exactly what's going on in the real world. And I don't see this coming to an end in all seriousness, with that serious conflict, in which we got to kick the living shit out of these people. Unfortunately, like I said, it's like they've never been punched before. And what we saw at UCLA last Thursday night, I think it was like 11. It started at like 11 o'clock at night. At least that's what I saw on some of the pundits that were talking about it the next day. It went pretty much all night. So the frat boys showed up. There was a good 50, 60 people, a lot of 30 and 40-year-olds, probably ex-UCLA, alumni that showed up, and they were basically kicking the shit and harassing the crap out of these idiots. And that's what needs to happen. That needs to happen. I thought it was glorious. It was justified. I mean, enough is enough. Fuck these dipshits. I'm done. I'm done with these people. So
Yeah. We've talked about this at length, pretty much ad nauseum, and the problem is we're being pushed closer and closer to the precipice of civil disobedience. It's hard to advocate for law and order when the party in power is using the law selectively, aka lawfare, rights for me and none for thee. Most Americans, they just want to be left alone. They want to live a peaceful life with their family, and they want to watch their kids grow up, and they want to just enjoy the fruits of their labor. And this used to be the American dream. It appears now Americans are hoping just to keep a little bit of their money in their pocket, and that they pray that their kids aren't in some jail somewhere or dead in a ditch. The sad truth is things are not going to get better until we make them better. America is sick right now. And when you tend to an illness, the treatment often makes the patient feel worse, at least for a period of time. And then the healing begins. This concludes today's presentation of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed the content, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our channel on your social media. It's appreciated. Also, please take the time to comment. Engagement is the major metric social media platforms like YouTube and Rumble employ in their search algorithms. The more people that like and comment, the more the Office of the Patriot channel comes up when social and political content like this is searched for. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.